This week I've been thinking a lot about choices. And what I was thinking is that the choices we make, sometimes we think, oh, I got this big decision to make, and it's going to have such an impact on my life. And then it turns out it really doesn't over the long haul. That actually, it's the little choices that we make every single day that actually guide the course of our lives. And every day, we're making these choices that are either backing what's important to us or not. And so we have congregants here, we have people in our community who have been married 57 years. Catherine and Norm McLeod have been married. They just celebrated their anniversary. They took the riverboat trip. They said it was lovely, to celebrate 57 years. And I was thinking about how that relationship did not last 57 years because at an altar 57 years ago, Catherine said, yes, and then they said, I do. Which was, considered a big decision, right, to get married. But that's not what did it, because we all know the divorce rate is pretty high. In fact, I've had 3 of them. So it's all the decisions you make after that, right? One after the other, every day. Every day. That builds a relationship that backs the intent. Their intent was obviously to have a strong family ties, to have that binding. They even have Sunday dinners with most of their kids and their kids' families still. And that shows where their intent was. You want to know where your intent is, look at where you spend your time. Not what you say is important to you. People say stuff's important to them all the time. But that's not what really is. You got to look at how you're spending your time. Now this week, the reason I've been thinking a lot about this is because this week, these guys I met in high school that I have been in touch with all along for 51 years showed up in Edmonton. Came to visit. After partying last night, 2 out of 3 of them made it. Went to the blues festival. It was great. And I remember I was thinking about all the decisions, all the choices that we all made during the year, or through all the years that kept us in touch, kept us bonded with each other. When I was 17, I was kicked out of my second high school, and my mom said, he can't live with me anymore. And my dad said, I don't want him. And so my grandmother, my father's dad, said, I'll take him. My grandfather had recently died. It actually wasn't this huge decision. She was lonely and was happy to have me there. And so I moved in with her into a place a little upstate New York. And after school started, I heard about this party, and believe it or not, I was a very shy guy back then. Wild, but shy when it came to meeting people and stuff. And so I was like, I don't know about going to that party. I'll just be uncomfortable. And my grandmother was like, no, you really need to do this. This is how you're going to meet people. So she drops me off at this party, and I go in, and I'm inside for party for a while. And then I really wasn't, connecting with anybody. So I went outside. I'm standing outside, and all of a sudden, this car pulls up, stops right in front of me. These 2 guys jump out. One sticks a pipe in my mouth. The other lights it and says, smoke this. 17. I followed those 2 guys around like I was their puppy dog the rest of the night. They drove me home. It wasn't long after that my grandmother died. And I'm sure you would not be amazed at all at how popular a guy can be if he's in high school living without parental supervision. Mine was the house to be at. And so I asked Ralph, he moved in with me, and Mark and Wayne, Ralph's brother, they started hanging out. Jack started hanging out. All these people started hanging out at the house. And that's how we all got started. Ralph's guitar still is the first guitar I ever picked up to practice, try to learn how to play on. And it still has the scratch marks to prove it. And so that's how it all started. And then it would have been easy after that to all go our separate ways and never see each other again. But there was something going on there that kept us saying, no, we want to stay in touch. We want to do this. We want to do that. By the time we were 30 and married, we had actually made an intention of we're getting together at least once a year to reconnect. And we did that almost every single year since we were under 30. Just getting together, going here and going there. Some of the things we did were pretty wild. But then other things, like when Mark's mom died, we decided this year we're just going to go down. Our get-together is going to be to support him around that. You know? Bonding moment, a bonding choice. And then time passes even more, and we're at each other's weddings. I mean, we wind up going to Mark's kids' weddings and keep connecting through all these different ways. And it was an intention. What is your intention? What matters to you? And I'm not saying that what has to matter to you is connection and bonding, because you get to decide what matters to you. I heard somebody say that, nobody talks about wishing they worked more on their deathbed. That's not true. Renoir, I've told you this before. His last words were, "What a shame, just when I'm beginning to show promise." At 97. You get to decide what you care about. But make sure that what you're doing is then making all those small choices to back it up. Because I'll tell you what, it is clear to me that small everyday choices have way more impact on the course of our lives than what we think are large decisions. It's the small little ones that get us there. When I was touring around a lot, Mark and his wife were like, "Here's the keys to our house whenever you're coming through Florida." That's a bonding thing, right? To be like that. Because that's what we chose. That was our intention, to be bonded like that. What is yours? What do you care about? What are you spending your time doing? And being conscious of. The best thing that we ever did was make a conscious commitment to make sure we got together at least once a year. And then kept to it, year after year after year. So that's what we did. How are you doing in your life? Are you on course? I used to say what was important to me was making it in music. But then I noticed I actually was making a lot of other choices. Day in and day out, I wasn't sitting there practicing 8 hours a day like my buddy Ralph was. Like a lot of musicians, that isn't what I was doing. I was out with girls. I mean, if I look at it, that's how I spent most of my time. But gigging was really fun for me. So anytime I took a job back then, I didn't last at it very long because a gig would come along and I'd say, sorry, I'm going to the gig. I'm doing the gig. And they'd say, wait a minute, you have a shift coming up. And I go, sorry, I'm doing the gig. Thus 97 different jobs. But it's what you make important to you, and how you are with it, how it moves you forward in your life. And it's really clear to me that all these little choices is what makes a life, not what we think the big ones are. The everyday choices as to how close you're going to be with your kids, grandkids, spouse, friends, your job, if that's what matters to you and you're there every day. People who just really care about their jobs. They're not wrong. They get to have that as important. We have a tendency to want to judge what somebody else thinks is important. But they get to do that. I get to do that. You get to do that. You get to decide, and it isn't based on, love is the only answer. Well, some people really love their jobs. They love their work. They love what I love being here with you guys. This is really fun for me. And so I was thinking about that. I was thinking about how that has guided my life. All the workshops I took in my 20s, all the different meditations I tried, all the different, I've been to every religion, I think, on the planet at least once. I bet I'm not the only one. Maybe not all of them, but, going around, trying this, trying that, seeing what what is spirituality? That's what mattered to me. That's what's always mattered to me. And so that's what I made important. And that's how I looked at whatever it is I was doing, is where is the spiritual in this? Where is the higher purpose in this? Where is the thing that's going to bring forth that within me that is larger than myself? And that's been driving me all along. I didn't always know it, but that's how I was spending my time. That and girls. Hey, married 4 times, man. So I get together with Ash, and I start thinking about how I really want this one to work. And so that became my intent, and that became the little choices that happen every day. Like one of the choices I made was to tell her what I loved about her at least twice a day. That became an intention, a very powerful one that has had great impact and great luck for me in my relationship with Ash. To support her, to be her rock. I've been with women who have been the rock for me. This was my turn. And so I've done that, and I've made sure that day in and day out, I have been there for her that way. And so that's been the course, right? And the results of that is we're now together 10 years, and we're doing better than ever. Our relationship is better. It keeps getting better. I didn't even know that was possible because I'd never seen it before in any of my relationships, that they could actually get better with time. And so that's been incredibly powerful. And the other thing about that is my relationship with myself. That's always been really important to me, clearly, because I've spent a lot of time looking at that, spent a lot of time thinking about that. And so in doing so, I've been able to see how, as my relationship with myself improves, my relationship with all of life seems to improve. When I look at how I became your spiritual leader, it was simply something I grew into over time, choice after choice after choice after choice, all the little choices all along the way that just kept me moving. Now, I like to joke about the fact that I'm a late bloomer, didn't really feel like I came into my own until 67. That's a fascinatingly long life to finally feel like you come into your own. But God knows, I got to tell you, it was worth it. It's worth the journey by making those choices, one after the next, after the next. Ash called me. I was talking to her. She's with her mom in Connecticut right now. That's why she's not here. Her sister, her mom lives with her sister. Sister went away on vacation. Mom can't really be left alone, so Ash is there. Plus, it was her mom's birthday, so she got to celebrate birthday with her mom. So she called me there today to tell me about this thing she was reading, and I did what I always do, which is as soon as she finished sharing it, I said, here's what I think about that. And she said, wait a minute, how about we change this? How about instead of you always telling me what you think about that, you ask me first? And I was like, oh, okay. Let's do that. So over the past 2 days, I've been practicing because that's the choice, right? You want to change something, you got to practice. That's what we're talking about here all the time is practice. So we have a vision here. The vision for our center is a loving, thriving, transformational world. And it has occurred to me that to create that, I need to be a loving, thriving, transformational being. Right? And so that's become my intention. That's who I'm going to be. Since that's our vision for the world, I got to be that, so that has to be the vision for me. And I love that vision. I mean, I want to be a loving, loving, thriving, transformational being. And so it wasn't hard to make that leap to say, oh, that's what I'm going to work on day in and day out now. That's going to be, I'm going to look at the choices I'm making, and are they in line with that? And that's what I want you to do. I want you to look at what it is your vision for your life. I'm not asking you to take on my vision. I'm asking you to look at your own. There is no right or wrong in this. There is no vision that's better than anybody else's. Because in the end, we're all just going to be sitting on our deathbeds going, did I enjoy my life or not? Because it's now up. Right? And so you got to make this call, and it's totally worth making. You want to run your life by that. Because if you do, then when you're sitting there at the end, you're going, man, that was a great ride. That's what's, right? Or am I the only one who wants to feel that way at the end? There's plenty for all of us. There is an infinite number of ways of being on this planet. There is no right or wrong in that. There is whether you are enjoying your ride, whether it has meaning for you, whether it's important for you. And it's never too late. You could be in your 90s or you could be 2. It's never too late to look at who you want to be in life, what you want to experience, what's important. And that doesn't mean that what's important isn't going to change. But while whatever is important, be willing to make the choices to back it up. To go, or at least notice if you're not. One of the things that I learned was when I was looking, I was saying how important it was to me make it in music. I noticed. I said, well, if it was so darn important to me to make it in music, how come I'm not practicing 8 hours a day? How come I missed that rehearsal to be with that girl? Who was, I couldn't even tell you her name. But I missed rehearsal for it. For her. I'm just saying, this is how you come to what matters to you. You got to notice. Did you go? Did you do it? Did you take that step? or not. And if not, either recommit if it really is important. Don't beat yourself up for it. You know, I got a friend who spends a lot of time beating himself up for what he's not doing. And I start to wonder, if you do that, if what you're making important is beating yourself up. If that's how you're spending your time. Because if you want to know what's important to you really, look at how you're spending your time. Are you spending your time picking yourself up? Feeling, saying to yourself these affirmations that we talk about here so you can feel good about yourself? Or are you spending time putting yourself down? Because people do that. I've done it. Or am I the only one? So it's up to us to take a look at how we're spending our time and then making choices that either get in line with what we really think is important or change what we think is important to be in line with the choices we're making. Makes sense, right? That's life. And this is how we create in a way that at the end we're going, yes, that was a killer life. I really loved that ride. It was totally worth it. It's totally worth it. Everything I've been through has been totally worth everything I've learned to be here with you. It's worth it. I love that we get to do that in life. That we actually, there's nobody here who gets to tell us what's important to us. You got to discover that for yourself. One of the beauties of taking the classes here is it really helps do that. That's why we talk about we don't teach you what to think, we teach you how, so that you can get in touch with what it is I'm talking about here, so that you can feel that for yourself, so that then you can live by that. Because that's what makes an incredible life. That's what makes a life worth living. That's what makes walking on this planet the extraordinary experience it is. We are all powerful, creative, spiritual beings. Living that way is what makes all the difference. Thank you. I love you very much.